So this workshop is on regenerative futures, building communities, centers, and the new paradigm. I've done workshops on alternative living, helping people who want to leave countries like the US and others, leave cities. Don't necessarily think we have to totally abandon our countries. Some people just want to get out to nature, get out of metropolitan cities. And so this will be a workshop that covers that, but with a specific focus on building communities and centers. A lot of people have asked me about that, not just moving and going to live in another country, but how to start a community, how to start a retreat center, how to join one, how to form a small pod with your friends. And so we're going to review some of that now. So over the last few months, I've been helping a lot of visionaries and leaders looking to build these types of projects, find land, including existing early stage communities and retreat centers that they can partner with. So they don't necessarily have to start from scratch. And I've also helped them find really good development teams like CJI, one that I work with very closely, and others, and good consultants to get these projects off the ground, because it's not easy to do this alone. And building a team is something I've done in the past and love to do. The lone wolf in this case has a hard time because these are enormous scale projects, even small communities, the invisible structures, the physical ones. Issues come up like innovative housing and hospitality rooms. We've seen kind of a merger between real estate and hospitality, where retreat centers are getting long-term guests, people who can stay from a month to 2 months to even longer, who end up almost living there because of the situation in the world today. And also communities. People are finding that people just want to visit and get a taste of a community and see how it is to live in community first. And many in Costa Rica are starting to spring up, and in other countries, Mexico, Portugal, even in the US. Our guest speaker today, Stephen Brooks, has built a retreat center here called Punta Mona, a community called Ecovia, and a new one called Alegria. So he's going to tell us a bit about that. And anyone who's interested in that community or center, you can email me or message me and I'll put you directly in touch with him. He's been a dear friend, mentor, advisor, best bud. So we'll also talk about things like looking over decks and proposals to bring into aligned capital into projects. Raising money is a reality, even if it's among friends or it's from the outside. It really needs to be aligned, and people have asked me, I've looked over dozens, if not hundreds of proposals in the past and made them in both spaces, in the retreat space and in the community space, and in mixed use projects that have both, which is very common now. So this really excites me. And I've been a connector. I think that's my zone of genius. I've done real estate and hospitality, and I have competence in it and excellence in some categories. But what I really love to do is connect. Connect people to building solutions, to land, to other people, to teams, to capital. So if you need any connection, reach out. And I'll be sharing some of the things I've learned along the way, but mostly the practical wisdom versus lofty ideals and ideas. We got to do this now, so that's the important part, the practical. And a bit about the Regenerative Future kind of workshop that we'll be doing in terms of the topics. We'll talk about finding land, which countries and regions, developing your deck, vision, mission, your financials, building a team, sustainable building solutions, permitting and logistics, all the legal considerations, capital and investment, regenerative living and land stewardship, how to do the sustainability thing right. And also innovative components like wellness centers, schools are popping up in a lot of these communities, art spaces, and a lot more. And then at the end, I'll get real with y'all and talk a little bit about the ups and downs of how this journey was for me. And at about somewhere around the hour mark, Stephen Brooks will come on and we'll hear from him kind of how his experience has been. So a bit about my background. So I love projects that push the boundaries of social impact and alternative living, be it hotel projects or retreat centers or building communities. And I started in New York City in throwing parties at nightclubs, which was a very different reality. And moved to Costa Rica about 15 years ago to build a retreat center, uh, birth a community that took many more years that's just getting off the ground now, and mostly begin my new life. And if you're listening to this, whether you're an individual looking to do this for yourself or a group, or wanting to start a bigger project, most of this will be applicable to both. Um, so I've spent about 15 years in real estate development and hospitality. I worked at a hotel company that had me traveling from Costa Rica, Mexico, all over Europe, the US, looking for land, looking for sustainable land projects. And getting to work with hotel brands and developers was really exciting to help them find the right properties, find really grounded models to turn their dreams into realities. I've seen a lot of dreams, including my own dream that stayed in dreamland for a while, and how to ground those and how to ignite them, really how to get that first spark, um, is a huge passion of mine, and kind of why we got into a little bit of the tiny homes and things I'll explain later, because if you can get on your land and get it going, it's nothing like that. So with Vida, our retreat center and community in Costa Rica, we wanted to create an environment for transformation and personal growth, and also prototype all these abundant ways of living and being in community. We've started the retreat center some 7 years ago, and the project, you'll see photos of master planning and other things. And about 4 or 5 years ago, the retreat center itself launched. Also as a prototype. We had glamping tents with the impact investor Pablo Jenkins that supported us. And we built a pool and a kitchen literally right before our first 100-person event. And at the time, it was kind of funny, and funny to my father too, who was my partner and supporter in this dream. We were trying to raise money, build a project, do all of the stuff that people do. He had bought the land with his savings, and we had to do the rest, and that was really hard. We didn't have a penny to do it, and because of experiences I had at Burning Man and in my event life and festival life, we learned how to create an experience very rapidly. So we popped up these tents, the pool, the kitchen, and literally started hosting people, hosting groups. And it's not how a normal real estate development or hotel starts. Usually involves a lot of money and building structures, but this was different. This gave us the energy to bring people there, and also to change things as we went along. We had really big visions in luxury building. Even though it was sustainable, it was still a very different beast than what it is now. And being able to prototype even where certain areas would go, seeing how tents were in an area that we might want to put houses and realizing it was too hot. Seeing areas where micro housing and tiny homes, modular homes, could be more useful than big mansions. My partner and I just moved from an apartment in the capital into a tiny house on the beach, and we realized how little space we needed. We have 40 square meters, just over 400 square feet. And yes, we have a lawn and a swimming pool and a shared yoga deck and kitchen and a few other spaces. But it's really been amazing to see how little we need and how much we could enjoy the land from this perspective. And then people can start to build bigger homes if they need, communities. And so the last part of this background, and we'll get into it, is the recent time. So I launched a company called Live the Possibility to help people bridge to this way of life, both finding land, building solutions with tiny houses, and development consulting with CJI, a company that builds communities and retreat centers for many years all over the world. We partnered to essentially help people build in these thriving, abundant areas and create their dreams one step at a time. Communities, centers, land projects, and then we connect all of these. We're working now on the website that'll be the rental network for these units, because Most of my friends want to live in one place, but go to the beach, go to the mountains. We do that all the time, my partner and I. So I don't need a 5-bedroom house necessarily, but I wouldn't mind 5 bedrooms all over Costa Rica or all over the world. So as we have people building these tiny houses and building these projects, we're placing rental units in each one to give people a taste of these areas, neighborhoods, communities, and also be able to exchange, be able to, without getting very lofty, just simple rental of these units for people, and having a similar concept to Airbnb, but just focused on regenerative living and regenerative hospitality. So we just started working on that website and platform for rental, which is awesome. And we're also helping people form pods with friends, which is somewhat happening naturally, but people who want to just get a few friends together and get a plot of land and be able to live there, or also have an income producing rental unit. We're just seeing what the demand is from people all over, but it's pouring in, so we're trying to match that demand appropriately. So let's jump into it. So the basics is starting to find which country or which region is right for you. I have people looking in the US, upstate New York, near California, Joshua Tree and Sonoma, places like Utah, Montana, places that are safe, safe from natural disasters and other things. You know, half of California is on fire right now, and I really love California. Always wanted a retreat center there, but it makes me think where. Also water, health now with all of the things going on, places that are less populated. And having traveled the US extensively, Arizona, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, I see states that have incredible laws, have incredible foundation to build community easier. And in a lot of these places, building permits and other things are tight. So we created modular tiny houses, and I also love supporting other people's companies that do that, because a lot of these units, like container homes and others, can be popped up right away and can also be super luxury or super basic. But for those reasons, not just aesthetics and all the pretty things on Pinterest, I looked at kind of collecting the solutions that will allow people to ignite these centers. Also noticing how much it costs to do this, some of those solutions make it a lot easier. So the pros and cons I look at when I would study countries for hotel groups and other things range from taxes, education, health and wellness. I personally landed, when you see my top picks, in Costa Rica, because there's no standing army. It's like the Switzerland of the Americas. It's safe, has very low rates of crime and other things. Education is super high here, one of the highest literacy rates in the Americas. And I love the people. It's also somewhat nuanced. Like, you go to these places and you see where you feel home. And 15 years ago, I came here and felt home. My father left Russia back in the day because he felt things were changing really rapidly there and didn't feel safe for us to raise a family there and for him to have a family there. And he packed up everything and and left. He left money on the table. He left a lot of things, but he took a huge risk and came to the United States. And I felt that as well, a little bit of an intuition that it was time for me to go right after college, and went to Costa Rica. And it wasn't easy. It's not like went with a ton of money. I was actually, a year after getting there, had really difficult financial circumstances. And as much as I was trying to pitch this beautiful dream in life, it was hard. It was really hard. There are nights where I would cry because we might lose a property because of bank loans and different things. I didn't know how all that worked, financing and debt and investors got upset when we didn't give them returns. And all of that was stuff I had to deal with. And some of it went really bad and then went really well. But going through that is a reality. It doesn't always just go peachy from the beginning. And to some people it does, but don't be discouraged. I mean, it was years before the things that I wanted took root, and planting those seeds early was critical because now I get to really enjoy this way of life and help others. Other countries that are top picks, by the way, because Costa Rica is not the only beautiful country. Mexico, there are parts of Mexico, Baja, where I have friends doing beautiful projects, La Paz, Valle del Bravo, and other places in the countryside. I know a lot of my friends are in Tulum right now, which is quite developed, but there's so many cool sustainable projects just outside of there as well. And we have a huge group of friends going to Portugal to start communities now in Portugal and retreat centers. And I traveled a lot in Portugal when I worked with my hotel group. Saw such beautiful land, such beautiful people. It was a neutral country during World War II, so a lot of royalty, a lot of people went there. And Portugal definitely has incredible legal systems. You can get I think for a 250K or 300K investment, you can get an EU passport, which is amazing. So a lot of our friends are looking at that. In Costa Rica, it's about 60K for residency and about 200K for an investor's express residency. So if you're investing in land or in a project, in many of these countries, you can actually get residency from doing so. And I know a lot of us are thinking about different things like elections and what's happening in the world. So if you're considering that, definitely look into what the residency laws are in this country that you're looking at. And I encourage you to travel around, give a taste to different countries, see what it's like. I traveled all over before we chose Costa Rica. Thankfully, my mom and dad gave me a lot of fun travel when we were younger, my sister and I. But after that, too, I went on my journey post Burning Man all over the world, traveling like a maniac, connecting to people, seeing what's going on. So at the next point, take your time, investigate the countries, the areas, due diligence, look at projects. I see people moving to a country and buying land so quickly. They're like, I just got to download, I feel it. And if you really did, trust it. Don't worry. But I really encourage people to try different regions of the same country. Even now, 15 years later, I'm finding myself in Santa Teresa, Costa Rica. There's beautiful community. Last week, we were in Nosara, another thriving zone. We have friends doing awesome projects there. Others in Uvita in the south of Costa Rica. I've spent time also in the mountains of Tinamaste and above, seeing land in these areas because, yeah, sometimes living on the beach can get a little beachy. So I personally, at some point when I'm raising a family and looking at a different part of my life, I might want to be more in the mountains, and I feel that. But always having a place to go to the beach, a beach home, something to share with friends, that would be an abundant luxury to enjoy, but one that I'd like to manifest. So really feel how you want to live, even if it's decentralized. I have friends who have beach rental units that actually make them income that they can enjoy literally for free because it's a place where they rent it out when they're not there. So you can design it in a way where it's not just for the rich and famous. And we have tiny houses that we're building for 15K and some that are being financed for people. So for $400 or $500 a month, you could have a tiny house and a piece of land. So that's the kind of stuff that I think makes it accessible to a lot of people. And yeah, and when you're doing this, when you start this process, build a solid team, legal, finance, residency, man or woman on the ground. Have someone you know in one of these countries that can help you. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've been that in Costa Rica for many people. So, you know, giving people the lowdown, my opinion. I also connect people to my lawyer, Manfred, who's amazing, to residency experts, to my accountant, Susan. She's a gem of a person. These people open up bank accounts. I give them power of attorney, especially when you trust them, so I don't have to wait in long bank lines. That was a huge lesson for me. Many countries abroad are super bureaucratic, and not having to deal with that bureaucracy could make your life a lot more comfortable. So when you find lawyers you trust, you can give them limited powers of attorney that they can file documents for you. I had, when I started working at the hotel company, I was in New York for a little bit last year, and I literally had my lawyer open me a bank account in a new company for $600 while I was abroad and sign the documents. He didn't have full power, but enough that I needed for him to do that, and it saved me a lot of time. Also, if you're making the move to a new country, it was really hard for me. We took a lot of luggages and suitcases. You could do the Marie Kondo way and give all your stuff away and live very light. That's cool too. And keep the things you love. I just did this whole thing where I moved out of my apartment and donated so many things to people who are in need right now, and it felt great. I donated them with love, and everything I have is more than enough, clothes, whatever. But also having a landing pad. I had an apartment in the capital of Costa Rica, which was really nice. It was still connected, internet, supermarkets, if you're with a family, schools and different things, so you don't immediately have to go move into a jungle or somewhere super far away. Some people want that, and I totally encourage it, but having a landing pad, even a place where you can get a storage units are both a gift and later become a pain in the butt because stuff just sits there. But in the beginning, that really helps. And if you're moving with a family and you have the budget, I had a moving company do what a lot of big companies like IBM and others do, which is a full relocation. They will literally pack up your things, label everything on the boxes, and unpack in your new apartment. And I didn't think it was possible, but it was not that much more expensive. Shipping a container to a country like Costa Rica could be $3,000 to $4,000, and the moving company charged me $6,000 to do all of the U.S. packing and unpacking. I don't know if I would need that now, but for those, especially with families, makes the world of difference. And again, some of these things might sound like luxuries, but if it helps you live more aligned and live more comfortably and pursue your dreams, don't feel guilty at all. It's these things exist for a reason, and you're helping other people do the work that they love. Doing business abroad is a huge learning curve too, especially if you're developing projects and retreat centers. There are a lot of things in Costa Rica. Sometimes you find out that materials will arrive tomorrow, and tomorrow could mean next week. Permits, when they say, yeah, it'll be ready in a month, give it 3, give it 6. In many countries, unless you ask a question, they won't give you an answer. So I once asked my lawyer, he was like, why are you an hour late for this meeting? And I was like, man, I hit this huge traffic jam. And he was like, didn't you know that there was a strike in the capital? And I was like, no, like, why didn't you tell me? And so that's the kind of stuff that, I learned slowly, the nuances that if you ask in Costa Rica, they will tell you. In many cases, they won't. So learn the country, and especially from a local, and how doing business there is. It could be really frustrating, and it was for a year or two for me. And if you're moving as a family or creating a project as a family, I've seen one of the family members, husband or wife, begin first and scout, set up the landing pad, maybe a schooling for the kids. Costa Rica has Waldorf schools and Montessori schools, but it's really nice to have someone go first and scout for the family. So highly, highly recommend different tips for families to nail these things, including language schools, including things like, what are you going to do if not both husband and wife, let's say, or husband and husband are not involved in the project together? What will the other one do? Whether it's write a book, whether it's art and a hobby. It's happened to me where I've had girlfriends and partners that got very bored, or because they didn't learn the language, felt isolated, or because they didn't have a driver's license or didn't feel comfortable driving, they didn't feel independent. And literally, those are the things that made developing communities and retreat centers really tough, because you want your unit to feel good. So those are some of the basics.